We, as capital G gamers, said with the same inflection as a 12-year-old discovering slurs on Xbox Live for the first time, have this interesting predilection for nostalgia and media that brings us back to the glory days of gaming, whatever the hell that means for any one person. In my case, that often results in mostly attempting to satisfy the ever-present loot goblin housed in my skull that refuses to leave because every eviction notice I give him he considers to be a common drop and refuses to pick up on account of the fact that my brain has no crafting system whatsoever. It's a shame, too, since there are some genuinely good times out there that harken back to some of the things I loved about Diablo 2. Last Epoch review coming soon, by the way, but I can't exactly say I have the same feelings for FPS games. I only vaguely remember playing Quake as a kid, and even that, I had asked my dad to be sure we even had, and it wasn't just a misremembrance on my part. Dusk, developed by David Szymanski and published by New Blood, is one of those shooters with obvious roots to the beginnings of the genre in the Monolith title Blood. Nowadays, Prodeus might be closer to Doom, and Medieval is more of a Hexen or Heretic affair, but Blood was a different breed. Built using the same engine that ran Duke Nukem and Shadow Warrior and also that other one no one likes talking about. Sure, Blood's difficulty is also itself widely remembered, but even after playing the fresh supply release, I still dig the vibe Blood brings to the table more than anything else. And vibe is much more difficult, pun intended, deal with it to get right. Did Dusk hit the mark? I mean, really, that's an entirely subjective question, just as subjective as asking, is Dusk worth it? So, obvious details out first. Dusk, first-person shooter, came out in 2018 with physical releases coming later. That's the obvious details. There are 3 chapters that run somewhere around 9 or 10 hours altogether, depending on how you feel about secrets and exploration. The story exists, but don't expect Larian-level storytelling. Baldur's Gate 3 modded run coming in due time, by the way, though it does use some of the concepts present for the player character Dusk Dude in its level design in interesting ways, which is a good place to start. Now, at first glance, Dusk's level design is simple. The game starts you on a meat hook, and exiting it leads to levels lined with cornfields, barn houses, and forestry, but then there's this eerie level with this church that's more foreboding than anything else so far. These levels are also fairly sprawling, though not big, if that distinction makes any sense. You might end up backtracking through a level that's suddenly repopulated with enemies, or has new, previously locked doors suddenly wide open, or even more than either of those. And the scenery ranges from, yeah, that's expected, to where the hell am I? I stopped recording after a certain point because some of these locations are insane, and I'm not going to risk even accidentally showing them off. Coupled with that is the great music done by Andrew Hulsholt, who also did the soundtrack for the recent Doom the Dark Ages. There's the heavier tracks you might expect, but there's also some more atmospheric work that I also deeply enjoy. I brought up the Blood vibe specifically because while it doesn't pay homage to as many horror classics as that title did, Dusk still delves well into the horror, with its Wendigos and Scarecrows. All of this, of course, wouldn't matter if the shooting in this first-person shooter was bad. And you might be unsurprised to hear that it isn't bad. It's good. You start with a sickle, which can actually deflect bullets with the right timing, a trick I only ever pulled off on accident. And your armory grows as you progress through the game, but it does reset back to just the sickle with each chapter. In no specific order, you've got the sword that can insta-kill enemies when your morale is high enough. dual-wielding variants of both pistol and shotgun, a double barrel, which is separate from the aforementioned dual-wielding variant, a machine gun, a hunting rifle, a crossbow with glowing bolts that can pierce through the environment and enemies, two separate explosive weapons in the form of the riveter and grenade launcher, and a cigar I've never managed to find without a guide. Dusk HD, free DLC that came out at the end of 2023 as part of an anniversary celebration, also brought in the Claw of the Flesh, which deals high damage at the cost of your own well-being. Most of these weapons kick ass, even if some of them didn't see much use outside of when I ran out of ammunition. I'm sorry, but dual pistols just don't hold a candle to the glowing crossbow that can indiscriminately cut down enemies like they're grass, and I'm too drunk to know where the lawnmower is actually going. The sickle gets pretty outclassed by the sword, if only because the sword can one-hit kill anything in the right circumstances. All weapons though pale in comparison to the greatest foe of all true Redditors, soap. Having said that, given the game's somewhat eldritch influences, it is kind of disappointing that most of the weapons are just, this is a gun, this is 2 times those guns, this is a gun that makes things go boom, this is another gun that makes things go boom, but the boom follows an arc. Kind of disappointing that the only really interesting weapons in the repertoire are the crossbow, the sword, that is only because of the insta-kill thing, and the claw, which got added in later via DLC. The enemies, though, are really cool. Like the environments, it starts pretty tame, but soon enough you get the satisfaction of gunning down grand wizards, and it only escalates from there, and there's even infighting if they get caught in their own crossfire, which is something that gets shown off at the start of one of the levels. Bosses range from meme callbacks to games I haven't played, to bigger versions of common enemies, to even a bunny-hopping guy with a gun, but in no way would I call anything the game throws at you boring. Which, I guess, is the verdict. Is Dusk worth it? Absolutely. The gunplay's solid, though the variety of weapons, considering the ideas present in its setting, is a little lacking. The stills from the store page do not do some of these environments justice, trust me, and the additional endless mode can keep you entertained in pushing for better times within that endless mode for hours. Not to mention the optional challenges, one of which I'm sure you'll just get on accident by virtue of how the game works. Short, I know, and not justifying the time between reviews, but I've been a bit busy lately. I've got a Baldur's Gate 3 modded run, last Epoch, and some not directly related to gaming stuff, all coming down the pipeline. I'll see you later. Story out.